Hi lovelies, you're welcome to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome. If you're a new subscriber, you're welcome to the family. So I'm going to be making a bubu kaftan dress, and I'm making use of these 2 yards of fabric and also half yard of my crepe fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to divide the 2 yards of material into two. So this is basically 1 yard for the front part, and then I'm going to be bringing on the second part, which is another 1 yard for the back part. If you're on a bigger sizes, make use of 3 yards of fabric. So I've gone ahead to place the back part on the front part together. So I'll just label this my back part, and I'm going to be pinning it together in place. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to rule a straight line on this top part. I'm going to be using that line as my shoulder point, also my starting point. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my measurements. So from that part there, I'm going to be coming down by 12 inches to get my bust point, and then I'll come down to my hip point. I'll go ahead to rule a straight line on that point. So after doing that, I'm going to be taking the full length of this gown. So I'm going to take the full length of the gown plus the inches that I'm going to use to fold it. So if I'm making use of 40 inches for the length, I'm going to be adding 2 inches or 1 inch for the folding allowance. So I'm just going to mark everything all together. Now I'm going to be taking my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches divided, which is 16 inches divided by 2 will give me 8 inches. So I just went ahead to mark the 8 inches there. And so now I'm going to be taking the length of my sleeve, which is 10 inches. But I'm making use of 8 inches because I'm going to be using 2 inches for the band. So I'm going to be taking it from where my shoulder measurement stop. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take the neck wideness of 3 inches. You can take more than 3 inches, it depends on what you want. Then I'm going to be going down by 1 inch. This is actually for the back depth. So after doing that, I'll just go ahead to just curve the neck point. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to come down by 1 inch from that my shoulder line closer to my armhole part. Now I'll go ahead to slant this, meeting my shoulder, meeting my neck wideness, just like this. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to take my bust measurement. So my bust circumference divided by 4 plus 4 inches that I'm going to be taking, or plus 3 inches. It depends on what you want to take. Mine, I'm making use of 3 inches. You can make use of 4 inches. You can make use of 2 inches. Depending on how wide you want this bubu kaftan dress to be on you. Now for my hip line, I'm going to be taking my hip circumference divided by 4. So I'm going to be adding 4 inches. Sorry guys, I added 4 inches as extra allowance. After taking my hip circumference divided by 4, I'll place one part on that line for my hip part, and then I will add extra 4 inches for the allowance, like how free I want this bubu kaftan dress to be. Now on my full length line, I'm just going to take the same measurement I took on my hip line. So basically this is just going to look as if it's straight. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to be doing is from that my bust point line, I'm going to be coming down by 2 inches. Then from that 2 inches, I'm just going to slant it this way. So I'm already forming that armhole part, that is that shape for the hand. Remember, this is a cut together, like it's a sleeve that is cut together with the shoulder part. Now after doing that, I'll go ahead to cut out the back part. So I'm going to be leaving half inch, that is 0 5 inch for the stitching allowance. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the two sides. So you can see I'm leaving half inch for the stitching allowance. Now after doing that, this is basically the cutting for the back part. I'll just go ahead to remove the back part. Now to cut out the front part, I'm going to be coming down by how deep I want this neck to be. So I'm going to come down by how deep I want it to be. So mine, I'm coming down by 9 inches plus that half inch stitching allowance, making 9.5 inches. So I'm just marking it there. So I'm going to be going in from that point I came down by. I'm going to be going in by 1 inch. And then I'll go ahead to connect it this way to this upper point. That is my shoulder line closer to my neck wideness, just like this. Now I'll go ahead and cut this out, but remember I'm not going to be cutting on that exact line. I'm going to be leaving 0.25 or 0.5 inches stitching allowance. Now after doing that, I'll just go ahead to open this up, and this is the V shape that I'm having. This is not like the main V shape, but it's like, I will just call it like a V shape. Now I'll go ahead to join the back to the front, right side facing right side, and I will stitch with half inch for the shoulder point. Now after doing that, I'm just quickly going to cut out this design at the front. First of all, I'm going to be cutting out the design. So you can actually make use of any inches you want, depending on how wide you want that design at the front to be. Mine, I don't want it to be too wide. So I made use of 11 inches. So I'm just going to cut this out this way. So 11 inches is going to be like for the four corner, I'm going to be cutting 11 inches. So just watch closely what I'm doing. The four corner is going to be 11 inches. So if you're making use of 12 inches, 13 inches, make sure the four corner is 13 inches or 12 inches or 15 inches, depending on how wide you want this to be. Now you can go ahead and create your own design if you want to, as in make one side to go inside. It depends on what you want. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the band. Now I'm making use of 2 inches for the band. You can make use of 3 inches. It depends on what you want. But I think 2 inches is more okay. But remember, the 2 inches I'm cutting out is on fold. When I open it up, I'm going to be having 4 inches. But when I fold it, I'm going to be having 2 inches. So you can fold it to cut your 2 inches. When you open it, you're going to have 4 inches. So now I'll go ahead to just do this way till I get to the end of this my crepe fabric. So just go ahead and cut like excess band. So this is it for the neck part. I'm going to be cutting another pieces just like that to extend my sleeve length. So I'm still going to be taking that same 2 inches. I'm going to be placing it on the hand just as you're seeing me doing, but on fold that I cut it. So when I open it, I'm going to be having 4 inches also. So I'll just go ahead and pin this down, and this is all for the hand, this is for the neck, and this is for that design at the front part. Now I will go ahead to start sewing the main gown itself. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to join the front and the back together, right side facing the right side. I'll go ahead to join the shoulder point with 0.5 inches allowance I left. After doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to open this up, as you can see. Now I'm going to be working on the hand part. I'm going to be placing that band. So this band is actually to extend the length of the sleeve. So my sleeve is supposed to be 10 inches, but I made use of 8 inches plus that band of 2 inches, making it 10 inches. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and place it from the wrong side. I'm going to stitch it this way, and then I'll go ahead to turn it from the other side. After stitching it, I'll go ahead to turn it this way towards the right side, like this, and I will top stitch under my joining that on that stitches that connect my the main material with the fabric, with the crepe fabric, I mean to say. Now after doing that, this is what I have. So this has already extended the length of the sleeve for me. I went ahead to do the same thing for the other hand. Now after doing that, I'm going to be working on the main front. So I'll go ahead and just mark out this point here. This is not like the middle point. This is that point that is closer to the middle point. So I'm just going to mark it this way, and then I'll go ahead to use my tape to measure from that point here. As you can see, I'll go ahead to measure this way to the other point I mark with my chalk. So when measuring this, make sure you have an accurate measurement. So after measuring, this is what I have. Now remember, I cut out excess band. So this band is going to be enough for me, like very enough for me. And I'm going to go ahead. You see, when I open it, I'm having 4 inches. This was what I was explaining earlier. So when I fold it now, I'm going to be having 2 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead to start placing this in fold. I've folded my band, so I'm having 2 inches for the band now. I'll go ahead and place it this way. I'll make sure I'm leaving excess fabric, a little bit fabric, at the other end. So when I measure what I actually measured for the roundness of the neck, I realize I'm having excess fabric left. There is excess crepe band left. So I'm going to be trimming that off later on. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to place this from that first point I marked with my chalk, but I'm going to be leaving small fabric, small crepe fabric before I start pinning this. Now I'll go ahead to do this way. I will pin this all round to meet the other place, the other point I marked with my chalk at the neck. So guys, I'm placing that band on the main front of the fabric. On the main front of the fabric is where I'm placing the band from to sew it around. Now this is the point I'm going to stop. As you can see, I'll go ahead to pin this, and I'm going to be cutting out the excess. You see the excess I have? I'm going to be cutting this out. Now after doing that, I'll go ahead to my sewing machine and sew round, and I'll be right back. Now I've gone ahead to my sewing machine to sew round. As you can see, the next thing I'm going to do now is to notch this point a bit. That point I marked, that point I started the stitching from with the band. I'm just going to notch it a bit. Then after doing that, I'll go ahead to take the band inside, inwards, just as you see me doing. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine to stitch that middle point down. This is what I'm going to do. I went ahead to turn it to the back side. Now this point here, I'm just going to stitch this on with my sewing machine, and I'll be right back. So after I'm done stitching this is what I have. I'll go ahead and place this way, then pin it. So I will make sure that it is balancing very well before I go ahead to pin it, so that I will not sew and lose. Now after doing that, I'll turn this to the front to make sure I have an accurate shape and is balanced. Now after doing that, I'm going to go ahead to apply or to place my design. Now what you can do, whatever you want to do. You can just keep this the 4-corner shape. You can slant one place inside. You can do it whatever shape you want. So mine, this is the shape I want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead to mark the middle point of the front. And I'll mark the middle point of that my design. So I'm just marking the middle point. So this will enable me to have like a perfect placement of that design. Now I'm going ahead to mark the up and down, that is the middle of that design. Now on my fabric, I'm going to be marking the middle of that space I have for the neck part. So I'm going to be marking the middle point, and then I will place the middle point of that my design to that middle point I have on the main fabric. So for me to slant these two parts as you see me doing, I'll go ahead to mark 4 inches from this part here. Then I'll mark 4 inches from this part here. So from this point I'm marking, this 4 inches point I'm marking up and down, I'm going to go ahead and fold it. That is where I'm going to be folding it from. So this is what I mean. From that 4 inches point I marked up and down, this is how I'm going to be folding it. So this is the design I want. Now I'll go ahead to iron this, and then I'm going to cut this out, but I'll be leaving 0.5 inches stitching allowance while I'm cutting it. So I'm not cutting on that exact place that I iron out. This is what I'm doing. I'm leaving 0.5 stitching allowance. Please don't forget to do that. Now after doing this, I'm going to go ahead to use my hemming tape or hemming gum to place this way. I'll go ahead to iron this. So this will actually enable it to actually be easy for me to stitch on my fabric. So I'll just go ahead to use 0.5 inch. I'll fold it to the four corner, then place the hemming gum under it, and this is how it is. Now I'm going to go ahead to mark the middle point of this my design. So I'm just marking the middle point so I won't be confused while placing it on the fabric. Now go ahead to cut out this excess here. So I'll turn this over to the front part. And then I'll place it, the middle part of the design to the middle part of that neck part here. Now after doing that, I'm going to be looking for the middle part. I'm going to pin this down first. So I'm just basically pinning this in place. Now I'm going to be looking for the middle part of this front part here, and the reason is because the down of so I'm going to be having accurate measurements to place at that down part, so that I'm going to be having the middle point is going to be touching the middle point of the main fabric. That is the middle point of the crepe design. It's going to be touching the middle point of the front fabric. Now after doing this, I'm going to go ahead to pin this all around. So it's very important to pin this all around, but don't pin it at that place you're going to sew. You're going to stitch on. Just pin it closer to it. Now I'll go ahead to use my sewing machine to pin this, to sew it round. After I'm done sewing it round, I'll go ahead to remove my pins, and this is what I have, as you can see. After doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and trim out this excess. It's no longer needed. So this is how it is at the back part, and this is how it is at the front part. Now I'm going to be cutting my pocket. So I have a video where I actually cut this pocket. So this is another video of how to cut a side inner pocket. So after measuring this, I think about 50 inches or 40 something inches, I'll go ahead to fold it into 4 places, and then I'll mark 7 inches for the wideness of the pocket. That is where I'm going to be placing my hand from, and then after doing, I'll just give it this shape, place my hand and give it the shape of my hand, and then I will use 1/2 inch stitching allowance to sew this all around. Now after doing that, I'm going to place the pocket. I'm going to, from the shoulder point, I'm going to be coming down by my waist point. Then from my waist point, I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches. Then from that 1.5 inches I came up by, I'm going to be coming down by 7 inches for the wideness of the pocket. Now I'm going to be tracing it on the main front of this fabric. Now after tracing it, I'm going to be placing the pocket this way, right side facing the right side, and I will stitch, then stitch on top. That is, I will stitch it, then top stitch it. I'll repeat the same process for the other side. That is the back part. I will stitch and top stitch it. You know, the pocket is cut into 4 places, 2 for one side, 2 for the other side. Now after I was done with placing the pocket, as you can see, that is for the back and this is for the front part, as you can see. Now I'll go ahead to start to close the 2 sides. So remember, I left ½ inch stitching allowance while I was cutting this earlier on. So I'm just going to go ahead to use that ½ inch stitching allowance to stitch all around this way, and I'll be right back. So I'm done stitching it, and this is what I have. This is my pocket. As you can see how lovely this came out. This my bubu kaftan short dress came out. And please guys, don't forget to subscribe, share, comment, ask questions and like, as it will really help my page to grow faster. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and fold this with the allowance I left for the folding allowance of 1 inch. And this is basically all for this. And later on, I'm going to use my needle to just tag this down. And this is all for this guy. I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.